Life on Track. It's been a great series so far. And I know some of you, we got football fans in the room, and I'm disappointed, of course, as a Cowboys fan that my Cowboys are out, even though he did catch the ball. Everybody knows he caught the ball. He knows he caught it. The Packers knows he caught it. Aaron Rodgers knows that he caught. Everybody knows Dez caught the ball. Anyway, we're not bitter. We're not bitter, but we got a couple of good games today, and the winners of those two games go to the Super Bowl. And speaking of the Super Bowl, there's a man who had some tickets to the Super Bowl a while back, and when he got to the game, he noticed that there was a man in front of him at the Super Bowl who had a seat that was empty next to him. And he was kind of surprised that the seat was not taken. I mean, tickets are hard to come by, very pricey for a Super Bowl, and so he was kind of dumbfounded that the seat was empty. And but he didn't think much about it. Went through the whole first quarter, assuming that somebody's stuck in traffic, something's come up. Eventually, whoever's supposed to sit in that seat is going to come sit in that seat. But first quarter came and went. Nobody sat in that seat. Second quarter came and went. Nobody came and sat in that seat that was in front of him next to a gentleman. And so after the second quarter at halftime, his curiosity, got the better of him, and he tapped the guy on the shoulder in front of him and said, "Hey, man, I just noticed that you have an empty seat next to you, and I'm surprised. It's a Super Bowl. How could there be an empty seat in the building? Is there a story behind the empty seat?" And the man said, "Well, actually, there is. There is." He said, "My wife and I were planning to attend the Super Bowl together. We bought these tickets a long time ago. And she recently passed away, and so she's not here with me." And so the gentleman said, "Oh man, I'm so sorry to hear that. That's terrible. I mean, I honor you for leaving the seat empty, kind of in her memory, but I'm still a little bit surprised. Were there not any family members, any close friends, maybe a kid of yours or anybody that's close to you, family or friend, that could have taken the seat?" And the man said, No, they're all at the funeral. So, they can't come. Got to get our priorities in right. So, in the series Life on Track, we've been talking a little bit about priorities and about intentions and about how a lot of times what we say is important, what we say is a priority, we don't actually live that out. In fact, there's a gap often between what we say is important and what we're actually doing. Last week, one of the statements that we made was direction, not intention, determines destination. So your direction will determine where you wind up, not what you intend. Your direction trumps your intentions 100% of the time. Direction always trumps intention. So if we have dreams, if we have visions, if we have, things that we say this needs to be a priority in our lives, things that we want to see happen or experience in 2015, we've got to make sure that we're headed in the right direction to see them happen. And so what we're attempting to do in this series is to kind of close the gap between our intentions, what we say is important, what we even believe is important, but what we're actually doing and the direction that we're actually headed in. And Proverbs chapter 17 and verse 24 says this. The writer says, "An intelligent person aims at wise action." They actually aim in the direction that they need to go. This is wise. This is where I need to go. So I'm aiming in that direction. But a fool starts off in many directions, whether it's not sure where they need to go, or maybe they know that this is the wise thing, but even though this is what I say I want, this is what I say my priorities are, I still am walking in a different direction. So in getting our lives on track, and making sure that we're actually headed in the direction of our priorities, aiming toward wise actions, we discover there's power and significance of living day by day. In other words, every day according to those priorities, those things that we say are important. And there are two main ways in our lives that we live out our priorities, two practical ways that in our life every day we live our priorities out. And that is what we give our time to and what we give our money to. In fact, if you want to discover what someone values in their life, if you want to discover what's important to somebody, regardless of what they tell you, because people will tell you all kind of stuff. Don't worry about what they tell you is a priority. Don't worry about what they tell you is important. Take a look at where they're spending their money and what they're doing with their time. Your schedule and your checkbook reveal the truth about what you think is important. And today we're going to talk about this idea of time. And we're going to talk about having the time of your life. Having the time of your life. Because a lot of us don't have our time. We give it to all sorts of things, and so we don't have it. Psalms 90 and verse 12 says this, teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. We have to number our days because they are very important. So we need to pay close attention to our time and what we're doing in our days. And the more that we value our time and value our days, the more wisdom we will gain and the more successful our life will become. So I want to start today as we talk about what we're doing with our time in our life. And what track we're on, what direction we're headed with our time, by talking about four just quick thoughts about time, four quick principles, if you will, about time. And you may have noticed, but in your seat is a little note card like this, a note page, something new we're doing this year at NorthRock. You'll have these every week, either in your worship guide or in your seat. And you can follow along, you can take notes. Obviously, you can also do that at uversion.com on the Bible app. Hit live events and you can find us. But we have these little black 3-ring binders. Many of you picked up. I think some 400 of them were picked up last week. And they're free. We have them in the foyer for you to take these notes and place them in. And just a way for you to keep up with what's being talked about and preached about here at NorthRock throughout the weeks. And during your study time or prayer time or whatever it is, devotion time during the week, you can go back through some of these scriptures that we're talking about. Just another way to help you move forward and grow in your faith. But let's look at 4 quick principles about time. Number 1, our most valuable asset is time. In our lives, our most valuable asset is time, not money, because you can get more money. I mean, you can sell something and get more money. You can work more hours and get more money. You can do something to get more money. You can go back to school. You can choose another career. You can get more money, but you cannot get more time. People always say, and it's kind of humorous, they'll say, I just need more time. I just need more time. I'll get it done. I just need a little more time. Well, that's too bad because you're not going to get more time, my friend. There's only so many hours and so many minutes in a day. 1,440 minutes in a day. We all have the same allotment, and they're not making new minutes. I've checked. They're not. You can check for yourself. You can call them, whoever they are. You can see if they'll give you some more minutes. I mean, AT&T, or they might be able to give you more minutes on your phone. But over at the end of the day, you've got 24 hours. 365, you've got so much, you're not going to get more time. Time is what time is, so we must live with urgency and understand how valuable of an asset time is. Successful people are not successful because they are lucky. They have learned the value of time, and they have organized their lives in such a way that they can do more with the same amount of time. Success in our lives, success spiritually, success relationally, success academically, success financially, physically, all of these things happen because we place a high value on our time. On our time. That's the first principle. Second principle about time is that we can't manage time. We can only manage opportunities. Can't manage time. In fact, Albert Einstein said that it's an oxymoron to think that you can manage time. Time is what time is, and it keeps going whether you try to manage it or not. But we manage opportunities within the confines of time. And when an opportunity comes our way, that's whenever we have to recognize it, embrace it, and take advantage of it. We talked last week about seizing opportunities in 2015. We have this fresh slate before us about how God is a God of fresh starts, and He's a God of second chances, which is an amazing thing just to know that, because God knows I have needed Him to be a God of second chances and third chances and fifth chances and 20th chances. And it's amazing that when I miss a shot, God's standing there taking the rebound and tossing the ball back to me and saying, shoot again, try again. I love understanding that. But now that I have this new year, this new opportunity in front of me, I need to take advantage of it. And I need to manage every opportunity from every day of my life. I challenged you last week, and I'm going to do it again for those that weren't here, for those that just need to hear it again. I challenge you to kind of do what we do here at NorthRock. To say, all right, in 2015, I'm going to be willing, if they say we need to join a small group, I'm going to join a small group. If they say we'd love to have you lead a small group, I'll lead a small group. If they say, you join a serve team, join one of our rock star teams and dive off into serving others here at NorthRock, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that. If we have a special prayer event, I'm going to come to that. If we have church every Sunday, and we do, I'm going to come every Sunday or almost every Sunday or every Sunday that I can. I'm going to get into the house of God. I'm going to do it. I'm going to seize the opportunity. I'm going to manage it because I have to be very careful and watchful of what I do with my time. Number three, principle about time is we can't do everything. We simply cannot do everything. I know you want to do everything. I know you'd like to do everything. I know you wish you could do everything, but you can't. You just can't. You can't do everything. There's so many good opportunities out there, but smart people, people who get it, understand this principle that real wisdom of life consists in the elimination of the non-essentials so that we can focus on the essentials. Eliminating the non-essentials. Things that are not bad, but things that we don't have to do so that we can do the things that we have to do. And people who get a lot done have a not-to-do list that is just as important and even more important than a to-do list. They live their lives knowing they simply cannot do everything. They simply cannot do a lot of things, because it takes away from the most important things. That's why our lives are defined often more by what we say no to than by what we say yes to. This is why I like Twitter better than I like Facebook. I do both, but I like Twitter better than Facebook. Anybody do Twitter? Any Twitter people in the building? Be proud. Hold your hand up high. You know y'all are cooler than everybody else. Anybody do Facebook? Anybody do Facebook in the room? You Facebook people. I see you. Yeah. Twitter is, I do both, but Twitter is so much cooler than Facebook. Here's why. In Facebook, you can you can type a whole story, and then he came in and said this, and then we went there, and after that, and you've written this like post that's this, and nobody reads it, and I don't anyway. Pictures, selfies of yourself crying. On Twitter, you can only type 140 characters. So it can only be like 3 sentences. It has to be very, very short and concise. And the reason Twitter is so much better than Facebook is you have to eliminate all the fluff, all the non-essentials in order to make your post. So when you read Twitter, it's like, there's the bottom line. Okay, great. Got the bottom line. And I've been guilty of trying to post something to Twitter, and I'm thinking, oh gosh, that's too much. What can I not say about that? So I'm reading it over and over, and I'm deleting this, deleting that, and I'm abbreviating words that got no business being abbreviated. Because like words, I would WRDS. All I'm doing is cutting out the O, but that's one more character, and those characters are very important. I have to be very careful with those characters. So I'm eliminating the non-essentials. That's why I think I had to preach a sermon in October. This is funny. A 7-minute sermon at an event in Houston. There's a big crowd, a lot of people, and they asked me to preach a 7-minute sermon, and they were very adamant that it had to be 7 minutes and no more. It's actually 7 guys were preaching for 7 minutes, and they knew if they just let 7, it would get out of hand very quickly. So they were like, 7 minutes is what you got. You ain't got no more than 7 minutes. There's going to be a big timer on the back of the wall. You got 7 minutes. Well, I thought, okay, this will be fun. It was hard. It is very difficult to say something significant in 7 minutes. It's actually not, but it's difficult to prepare for that. And I spent lots and lots of time poring back over my short sermon and saying, well, I can't say that. I can't say that. And then I would time myself. I don't typically do that, but y'all wish I would time myself better. I know. You're like, please preach a 7-minute sermon. But I couldn't even be telling this story, though, right now, because I'm taking like 4 minutes telling this story. So that would have been the majority of the sermon. But I kept cutting things out, and I kept cutting things out, and I kept cutting things out. It was actually an incredible exercise for me. It really was, as I kept cutting and kept cutting and kept cutting and just getting down to the core of the thought. And a lot of times in our lives, it's so much like that because we have so many good options, so many things that we could say, so many things that we could do. Well, this would be great for my child. I know it would be good for him. This might be great for my family. This could be great for my career. This is a great opportunity, for my teenager. There's so many great opportunities to where you can be involved in great opportunities from 6 in the morning till midnight, 7 days a week if you are not careful. So wise people, smart people have gotten to the place where they understand that real wisdom in life and real success in life comes from eliminating the non-essentials so that we can focus on what is most important. Most important. We need to ask ourselves, what is most important in my life? What is the most important thing I should be doing with my time? And then, when you come to that realization, then ask yourself, now, what's getting in the way of what's most important? What am I doing that's causing me not to be able to do what is most important? What's most important? Number 4, fourth principle as it comes to time. We must manage our priorities every day. We must manage our priorities every day. Every day. You can make a decision one time about what's important. That decision can be made once, but it has to be managed every day. Decisions can be made, disciplines happen every single day. Every single day. And the gap, that difference between our intentions and our direction doesn't happen back whenever we set the intention or we set that New Year's resolution or whatever it is. The gap begins whenever the next day we make a decision that takes us in a different direction from what our intention was or what we said our priority was. I'm going to get in better shape this year. I'm going to go to the gym. But it's gym time, and I just think I'll take I'm so tired. I don't know if I've had the right food. I'll do it tomorrow. Oh, and by the way, there are still some Krispy Kremes left over from decisions. And we could use that analogy in every area, relationally, time with your kids, the way you're spending your money, and time with your God. These analogies could come into play in every one of them. The gap happens whenever we make choices daily that don't line up with what we said was our priority, what we said was our intention, so we must manage our priorities every day. Let's take back our lives, guys. Let's take back our lives, ladies, by taking back our time every day, evaluating ourselves. Whatever you got to do when you get up in the morning, what do I need to do? What are my top priorities today? And then, if that's not good enough, then sit down at the end of the day and gauge yourself or grade yourself. How did I do today? If I said my children were my top priorities, if I said my teenage boy is my top priority, then how did I do today in pursuing a relationship with him? How did I do today? Measure yourself. So that's 4 quick thoughts about time. And now I want to move, because the big question of the day is, so we're talking about time and managing our time. How do I really get on track with my time? How do I do this? And I got 3 things that we must all make time for in 2015. We've all got our own individual things and ways that we need to spend our time, but I'm going to give you 3 overarching thoughts that most of the things that we need to do with our time are going to come under one of these 3. But first, Ephesians chapter 5, verse 15 says, be very careful. Be very careful. Everybody say careful. How you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity. So one passage said we need to number our days. Another one said be careful, make the most of every opportunity. How do we do that? How do we number our days? How can we be sure that we're placing a high value on time and putting the right priorities in place? 3 things that we must make time for in 2015. The first one is this one. It's simply this, and I'll guarantee you're not doing very good at it. We must make time for rest. I guarantee you stink at this one. I do. You'd rather say me stink than... You'd rather me say stink than suck, wouldn't you? So I said stink instead of suck. I wanted to say suck, but I didn't. I said you stink at this one. I'm preaching. I can't say that. Make time for rest. I don't do this well. I'm learning. I have had to learn. I have to do better at making time for rest. And I would say that even in the past 3 years, I've come a long way in making time for, we live in a time, we live in an era where our pace of life is destroying us. And rest is a spiritual discipline that this generation doesn't know much about. And in fact, in some ways, they know nothing about the spiritual discipline of just resting. Even when we say we're resting, our brains are creating. We won't stop. We're surfing the internet. We're thinking about the next day. We're thinking about next week. We're surfing Facebook. We're mad that they got stuff that I don't have. We're fussing about this and fussing about... Even when we say we don't know how to be still. We don't know how to just be still. Just stop putting the phones down, closing the Facebook off, putting the Twitter down, turning the television off. It's hard to in fact, one magazine declared that America was in the decade of fatigue. The decade of fatigue. Everybody's tired. In fact, Time magazine said a few years ago, and I've talked to you about it, that America's #1 answer to the question, how are you doing, is, I'm tired. I'm tired. How are you doing? Tired. Tired. Boy, I'm tired. So tired. How's everything going? I'm just tired. Just need some more time because I'm so tired. Wish I had more time. I just need more time because I'm tired. I'm just tired. I'm tired all the time. Busy, 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 busy. Everything going busy, 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 busy. I've since talking about that, I won't hardly answer questions that way. Like if my wife asks me, I might tell her I'm tired, but I'm not going to hardly tell anybody else, oh, I'm so tired. I'm just so tired. Everybody's tired because everybody's busy. Everybody's busy. You think you're busier than me, but you're not. You think you're busier than the person next to you, but you're probably not. Everybody thinks they are the busiest person in the room. We're just going crazy and we're so tired. That's our culture. That's who we are. That's who Americans are. We get up early in the morning and we go berserk until we go to bed at night. We run home from work in traffic, picking up kids from here, taking kids there, grabbing another kid, leaving there, taking another kid from somewhere else, taking that kid somewhere else. And then we're trying to eat food. At some point, we're cramming food in our mouth. And then we just get home. We're tired. And we wake up the next day and we start the whole chaotic thing over again because we're tired. We don't know how to rest. And this is a huge thing to God for us to learn how to rest. Psalm 23, and even if you don't know anything about the Bible, you have probably heard this psalm. You know the psalm about the shepherd. If you've been to a funeral ever in your life, this is always read at funerals. In Psalm 23, verse 2 says this, He makes me lie down in green pastures. He makes me stop beside quiet waters. Why? Why does he do that? So he can restore my soul. We have a problem with being renewed and being restored because we won't rest. And so we walk around and we live our lives empty when God is saying, if you would just stinking stop for a moment and give me a chance, I would renew you and I would restore your soul. This principle is very important to our God for us to rest. So important that it shows up as one of the 10 commandments. And I've been guilty of violating this commandment. Some of you are like, what are you even talking about? Remember the Sabbath. Remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. You say, well, Sabbath, that just means come to church, right? No. It means a lot more than that. As a matter of fact, Sabbath, the word, actually means to desist from exertion, to cease, to just stop, to cease to accomplish, to cease to create. You don't create anything. You don't exert yourself. You just stop. And some of us, we take a day off. I take a day off every week, and I get up and I have that honey-do list. As long as I get up early in the morning and I start tackling projects, and by the end of the day, because we're tackling projects that we got no business, we're completely overmatched for, we're exhausted, more exhausted than we were when we started our day off. Because we just don't understand the principle of rest. You get up and you're trying to, fix a plumbing situation that you got no business. There's water all over the place and you're on the phone, and instead of resting, you're cussing and it's just not getting done for you. And God's like, how am I supposed to restore you and renew you? You're not resting. We need to make time, prioritize time to rest in 2015. And the reason we have to prioritize and the reason we have to talk about it is because if we're not intentional about it and we don't plan it, we won't do it. If you say, well, I'll just wait until I have time, you're not going to have time. You've got to make time to rest. Make time to cease creating, to stop working. Principle given to us by God when He created this world. He worked for 6 days, and on the seventh, He rested. He did not create. He rested. Principle set forth from the very beginning that we all need in our lives. We need to make time to rest. Mark 2:27, Jesus said these words. Jesus said, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. He's saying, this is not some silly rule for you to obey. This is for your benefit. You must rest so that I can restore you, so that you can be renewed. Make time for rest in 2015. Number 2, make time for purpose. These are 3 things that we all need to do. And you're going to find your own little subcategories under all 3, but 3 big categories. We need to make time for purpose in 2015. Whatever you do with your life, make sure there are activities that are making a difference in things that actually matter. Make sure that what you do is making a difference for eternity, because you were created to make a difference. And you are never going to be fulfilled. You're not going to be fulfilled until you learn to make a difference. And if your whole purpose of living is chasing fun and chasing pleasure and chasing money, mark my words, you're going to live a miserable life. There's a whole book in the Bible written by King Solomon that's devoted to this idea. It's an Old Testament book called Ecclesiastes. And in the first chapter of this book, in verse 14, Solomon said this, I have seen all the things that are done under the sun. And there's some hidden meaning. There's not hidden, it's actually pretty direct. Under the sun. All of them are meaningless. It's like chasing after the wind. Solomon said, I've done it all, man. I've chased it all. I've drank it all. I smoked it all. I dated it all. I married it all. I worked it all. I tried it all, and it is all meaningless. It's all meaningless. Hear me, if you're not doing something in your life, if it's not planned, and it's not something that you are making sure that is not just a priority, but a discipline in your life where you are making a difference for eternity, you're not spending your time the right way, and you're going to struggle with life legitimacy. Your life's never really going to make sense. You're going to continually ask yourself the question, is this really what it's all about? If you're not living a life on purpose. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 18, Paul is writing to a young preacher whom he had mentored named Timothy. And Timothy's leading some people, and Paul is writing to Timothy to kind of help guide him as to what he needs to be teaching the people that he's leading. And in 1 Timothy chapter 6, Paul said, command them to do good, be rich in good deeds, be good to others, be generous and willing to share. Share their time, share their money, share their energies, serve others. Verse 19, in this way, they will lay up treasure for themselves as a firm foundation for the coming age, so that they may take hold of the life that is truly life. In other words, there's living and there's living. There's living, and then there's living. And if you really want to live, you've got to learn to serve. You've got to learn to make a difference, an eternal difference in the lives of someone. And that you might be sitting here going, I don't know what that means or what that looks like for me. That's why NorthRock is here. That's why when we talk about Growth Track and we preach about all this stuff, we want to help you discover your design, the way that you were uniquely created, so that you can then live. As a matter of fact, Alicia told you today's Growth Track, session 3 is called Live 301. You know why it's called Live 301? Because that scripture said, we want you to discover and take hold of life that is truly life, so that you can really, really live. And there's nothing like laying your head on your pillow at night, knowing that you teamed up with God today to make a difference, an eternal difference in the life of someone. I dare you to take advantage of the opportunities given to you at NorthRock and even in other locations, to where you can serve and give yourself to something larger than yourself. Nothing is like it. You're not living until you've lived for something bigger than yourself, and you're making time for the eternal. Number 3, final point is we need to make time for relationships. We need to make time in 2015 for relationships. And that's different for everybody, but we all need it. Time for relationships. 3 different categories under relationships. The first one is friends. We need healthy, life-giving relationships. We all do. We all need people in our lives who are encouraging us. Hebrews chapter 10:25 says this, "Let us not give up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing." In other words, don't try to go off and be a loner all by yourself, but let us encourage one another. You can't encourage or be encouraged, and you need to look at it both ways. First of all, you need to be an encourager. Second of all, you need to be encouraged yourself. You can't do either of those if you're spending time all by yourself all the time. And this is even more important the closer we get to the end of the world, is what the scripture is basically saying. We need healthy relationship. Every single person in this room, your faith story, whatever it is, and some of you, your faith story is brand new. Some of it is still developing. You're still really not sure how you feel about Jesus. Some of you are brand new to faith, Christianity. You might have been following Jesus for a few weeks. Maybe you've been following him for a year, or maybe you've been following Jesus for 25 years. But the fact is, every single one of our faith stories has attached to it a relationship component. Every time. Somebody told us about Jesus. Might have been a coworker that invited us to church. It could have been a family member. Could have been a neighbor. It could have been a neighbor and a coworker. Somebody somehow lived out their faith that caused you to see what they were doing and say, man, I need what they have. Every single one of us have a relationship component attached to our faith story. That's the way God set it all up. We need each other. We need to be encouraged by one another. I like it when people encourage me. I'm the first one. I need to be encouraged. I got a text earlier this week encouraging me, and I was like, yeah, it just kind of fired me up. I had to read it to Alicia because it was awesome. I want to encourage you today is what it said. And then they went on to say something else. And we all need people in our lives that are encouraging us. So make time for healthy relationships. The way we help facilitate that very easily in a practical way at NorthRock is through our small groups. Through our small groups. So take advantage of the small group semester. And by the way, next Sunday, small groups go online where you can sign up. We can start online sign up next Sunday, the 25th. And today, if you want to lead a small group, and we got opportunities galore for people to lead small groups. I heard of an incredible idea today between services. But if you have an idea of something you could do, it could be anything at all. You'd like to lead a group, there's training session today at 12:30. There's a training session Wednesday night at 7, next Sunday at 12:30, and then the following Wednesday at 7. There's a lot of opportunities for you to be trained, and it's just a short training, and you can join a Rockstar team as one of our small group leaders, helping redeem your passion for the use, for the glory of God. Make time for relationships. Do it. I dare you. Make time for family. Make time for family. Family. About, I don't know now, I guess it was about 8 years ago. We were in our backyard. This is in Austin. We were still living in Austin. Britton was a little boy, probably about 2 years old. We're in the backyard. We had a swing set in the backyard. How many of you know you got kids? They want you to swing. If there's a swing set within 2.5 miles, they see it and they go to it and want to. So you spend a lot of your time doing this right here. Swing me, swing me, swing me, swing me, swing me, swing me. Daddy's tired. Swing me, swing me, swing me. And I was doing that. We were in the backyard in Austin, swinging Britton in the swing set. Mason was playing. Alicia was out there too. We were all in the backyard together. And Britton happened to point his finger off into the distance, and little bitty baby. He said, "Look!" We're like, "What? What does he see? What does he see?" He said, "We have a sunset." And This is his, kid way of saying, look at the sunset. But the way that he said it resonated with me instantly. And I stood there for a moment. I said, the kid's right. Today, on this particular evening, we're not running around all over town like chickens with our head cut off. We're actually in the yard together, hanging out, spending quality time, doing basically nothing but hanging together. And on this particular evening, we actually have a sunset. Oh, there's a sunset every evening, every night. But on this night, we actually have our sunset. And we're talking about having the time of our life. Some of us need to eliminate some non-essentials so that we can put high priority on what is most important and have some sunsets. Time with friends, time with family, and of course, as we close, in 2015, we need to make time for our relationship with God. A relationship, not just going to church. That's awesome. But you need a relationship with God. And that relationship won't happen just on Sundays. It's great. But if you're going to have a relationship with God, that's going to be on Mondays. And on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays. And Fridays and Saturdays. Every day. I don't have time to set aside time with God. Did you hear what you just said? You said, because you said, I don't have time to set aside time for God. I want you to say that over and over again. And look in the mirror when you say it. And think real hard about what you're saying. First of all, you have time, again, for what you make time for. And it's very important that you prioritize the presence of God in your life in 2015. If this is going to be your best year ever, it's going to be your best year ever spiritually first. So whatever you got to do to set aside time. Martin Luther said once, I'm so busy, I have so many things to do today that I must spend at least 3 hours in prayer. He understood a principle. I have so many things to do that I must spend 3 hours in prayer. I dare you to seize that opportunity and every day set aside a spot and a slot, a location and a time for you to spend with Jesus. We have these little 21-day devotionals that we passed out the last couple of weeks. Many of you have those. Take them and use them. I love it. I love it. That's what I love about that. I love when our church is praying together and fasting together. And so many people are doing it. I love hearing the stories, even already of answered prayers that people are praying about and seeking God about. But I dare you. I dare you to make His presence in your life a priority in 2015. God, family, friends. Close your eyes. Let me pray for you.